Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to today's Sohbet and Sufi meditation with me, Paul Salahuddin Armstrong, Muslim chaplain at the University of Birmingham's Multi-Faith Chaplaincy. I hope you are well wherever you are tuning into this from and having a good beginning of the week. Today, there's something that I want to clarify that I posted about yesterday, and it's not something that initially I was looking to discuss, or at least one of the people who's mentioned in that post is not somebody who initially I was looking to comment on or post about. And indeed, the post itself, although it mentions him, is not really about him. But people have raised concerns. The person in question is, of course, Andrew Tate. Now, I posted about a Daily Telegraph headline. Now, for those of you elsewhere in the world, the Daily Telegraph is one of the broadsheet newspapers in the UK that has a long history, goes back probably a century or more. It's a really established newspaper with a sort of conservative kind of right-wing kind of bent, but it's not an extreme one, just normal right-wing kind of bent. But I was concerned about the headline because the way the headline was written, it gives the impression that conversion to Islam is itself inherently a bad thing. Now, I find this incredibly troubling, as of course I myself am a convert to Islam, as many of you would realize. And whether a person is a convert to Islam or whether a person is not a convert to Islam and they are someone who has come into the religion because they were raised into, the religion by their parents, it should still be of concern because this is the way Islam itself is being portrayed. The headline itself was how Andrew Tate's conversion to Islam could be corrupting young men. How Andrew Tate's conversion to Islam could be corrupting young men. Now, my concern here is simply replace Islam with Judaism. How Andrew Tate's conversion to Judaism could be corrupting young men. Or how Andrew Tate's conversion to Christianity could be corrupting young men. Why would the name of the religion have anything to do with that? Why would, whether he become a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew, why would the religion have ownership of that? I mean, we all know from, well, I don't really want to say that because I don't know too much about Andrew Tate. I haven't gone through hours and hours of his videos like some people have. To be honest, before his comments about Greta Thunberg, I never paid him much heed at all because he's just somebody that other people follow. He was not somebody that I was particularly interested in watching. So I can't really comment in great depth. I mean, I have watched a few of his short videos. What I have seen, it does look a bit unsavory, which is why in my post, I mentioned an unsavory character. If an unsavory character embraces a religion, how does that reflect on the religion itself? Well, of course, it doesn't matter what religion it is, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism. all of these religions have people who are unsavory characters, who are traditionally raised within those religions, or who embrace them. All of the religions do. Not every Muslim is a model Muslim. Not every Hindu is a model Hindu. Nor should we expect them to be, because people are human beings. And, it's one of it's actually something I'm just going to mention. It's quite relevant to this. I was actually talking to a Hindu friend of mine the other day because I helped him with something. And he mentioned to me about a conversation that he had with a Muslim friend of his. And this Muslim friend was commenting about her sister who married a formerly Sikh man who converted to Islam. And her comments about him were, he's not a good Muslim. He doesn't pray. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And my Hindu friend said to her, but you don't do those things. And she says, well, it's different for me. I'm born a Muslim. Now, I mean, that is a problem in itself. And this shows an erroneous understanding about Islam, because it doesn't matter whether you are, born into a Muslim household or whether you convert into Islam. The duties that are upon a Muslim are upon every Muslim. The daily prayers, the zakat, the fasting during the month of Ramadan. And if you can, at least once in your life, to go on Hajj. These are duties upon all Muslims. There is no difference between someone who converts to Islam at 30, 40, 50, whatever years of age, or 18, and someone who is raised in a traditionally Muslim household, who's sent to madrasa. They have the same things that they have to follow. They all have to declare the Shahada, otherwise they're not a Muslim. You don't have to declare Shahada. You don't have to be a Muslim, but to be a Muslim, you have to declare the Shahada. Just like if you want to be a Christian, you have to declare the Apostles' Creed and get baptized. You're not a Muslim if you don't believe Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. You're just not. It's not. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. It's just reality. Anybody who makes that statement, from the heart, is a Muslim, and that's true even if they fall short with all of the other. If they don't pray, if they don't fast, if they don't. I'm not recommending it, but if they don't, but they do believe that there is no God except the God and Muhammad is the messenger of God, they are a Muslim. You can be a bad Muslim, and you can still be a Muslim. Maulana Sheikh Hisham Kabani has often mentioned that if a person says the Shahada, even once in their lifetime, sincerely from the heart, if they've said this, it's enough to get them to paradise. It's enough to save them from the hellfire. Maulana Sheikh Nazim, he said the same thing. It is that powerful. That's not to say it's ideal to just declare the Shahada and not do anything else. Of course it's not. I mean, you think about it as any other investment that you make in your life. I mean, if you say, I want to become a cricket player, and you make the statement and then you don't go and practice to become a cricket player, you don't do any practice at all, or you just do an occasional game once in a blue moon, you're not going to be a very good cricket player. It just goes without saying. So, I mean, it's certainly not ideal, but at the same time, if a person declares the Shahada, they're a Muslim. But at the same time, if you are a Muslim, there are duties upon you. And those duties are the same duties whether someone is brought up in a Muslim household or whether someone has embraced Islam. These 5 pillars of Islam, obviously I mentioned the Shahada, fasting during the month of Ramadan. Unless there's some reason you can't fast, like if you've got an illness or pregnancy, or there's various reasons, medication that you have to take throughout the day, otherwise literally your health will really seriously decline. then these are reasons that you don't have to, at least you don't have to abstain from food. But a lot of people misunderstand fasting, because fasting doesn't just mean abstaining from food. Fasting means abstaining from haram. Fasting means abstaining from bad behavior. Fasting means abstaining from bad language. Fasting means abstaining from disrespecting people. Of course, most of these things we should do anyway as a Muslim. But during the month of Ramadan or any days that we are fasting, there's an extra emphasis on these things, because if you do any of those things, you break your fast. And that's, something a lot of people don't always consider. They think it's only about food. And Ramadan is approaching us, is going to be with us in the next couple of months. So, it's worth keeping this in mind. And of course, giving charity, the obligatory almsgiving, the zakat, ideally give sadaqah as well. And, going on Hajj if you can once in your lifetime. These apply to every Muslim. Once a person embraces Islam, there's equality between Muslims. There's no difference whether someone is a convert or if they're not. But then, you get these people with these ignorant views, like my friend's friend. And I've heard this not just from, that's just literally, he told me like a week or two ago. So it's on my mind. But people have told me things like this myself, and they mentioned it about people who've converted to Islam. And they says, oh, I haven't seen them in the mosque for a while, implying they've left Islam. And they've asked me, and in some cases, I know the person, and I've said, well, I know them, and they do. They are actually very devout. A lot of the prayers they read at home, or they go to, a Sufi center somewhere and pray there. That's why you don't see them as often as you used to see them. Doesn't mean the person has left Islam because you don't see them in the mosque. Now, would you say the same thing if someone was from a traditionally Muslim background? Probably not. Because if someone, certainly in this country, we've got a situation where if someone is born into a British Pakistani family or British Bengali family, they're Muslim. They're just assumed to be Muslim. Even if they never read their Salah, even if they never fasted during Ramadan, they are assumed to be Muslim. If someone embraces Islam and then they struggle, because it's a lot to take on. If you're a typical English person, you don't have to pray 5 times a day. You don't have to fast. You don't have to eat halal and abstain from pork. You don't have to stop drinking. You don't have to not have girlfriends or boyfriends. You don't have to worry about any of these things. You don't have to dress a certain way. So you can imagine for someone, whether they're English or French or from another cultural background, who embraces Islam, expecting them to suddenly do all of these things, it's a big ask. And people will do it to varying degrees. But yet, in the same societies, if you happen to be Arab, or you happen to be Pakistani, or you happen to be Bangladeshi, and you don't do those things, nobody's going to turn around and say that you're not a Muslim or even think that. Because you are a Muslim, you're born into a Muslim family. Your name is Abdul Hamid, or your name is Mohammed, or your name is Abdul Rahman. Of course you are Muslim. Well, this is bigotry. This is bigotry. And I'm sorry, it needs to be pointed out. We should not expect that just because somebody's embraced Islam, they're going to be reading 5 times per day prayers, and if they don't, that they've apostatized. That's ridiculous. That's holding a convert to a higher standard than you hold someone from a traditionally Muslim family. That's bigotry. And it's like always the convert is under the spotlight. to see what they say, to see what they do. If they hold a different political opinion, if they or geopolitical opinion that you don't expect, that's different from yours, astaghfirullah, what kind of Muslim is that? You can't say these things. It's just it's just wrong. You got to think about it. If you would say, if you would not say that about someone who is from a traditional Pakistani background or traditional Indonesian background or traditional Arab background, how is it okay to say that about someone who's from a white or black American background or a white or black British background or French or German or, it's that bigotry. Also, even if a person embraces Islam and they are totally sincere about embracing Islam, it's going to take time for them to adopt Islam. First, there's a steep learning curve. There's a lot you have to learn. If you don't know Arabic, you either have to learn Arabic or you have to rely on translations and transliterations. Even then, that's still a steep learning curve. It takes time to learn. Some people learn faster than others. I mean, this is why, I read a book about an account about, it's one of Maulana Sheikh Nazim's books about Sheikh Abdullah Fayaz Dagestani. And there was an English lady who converted to Islam. She was quite senior. And she was worried because she's like, if I convert to Islam, I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to read Arabic. I don't know how to do this. And he gave her something very, very simple to do. I forget exactly what it was now. It's might have been as simple as reciting the Shahada a few times every day. Something very simple like this. And he told her, just do that. And pray in your own way. And the woman passed away a short time afterwards. So, it's not like she had long enough left in her life that she would have been able to learn these things. And there must have been people, even in the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who they converted to Islam and then passed away shortly afterwards. They wouldn't have had time to learn how to read Salah. But just because they never read Salah or memorized any of the Quran or any of this doesn't mean that they went to hell because they embraced Islam. It's actually part of traditional Islam to believe that all of the sins that a person committed before Islam are actually forgiven upon the embracing of Islam. That they start with a clean slate, at least spiritually. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that if a person committed crimes or did things wrong in their life before they embraced Islam and then they get arrested, that there won't be worldly consequences for that. But it means if their conversion was sincere and they start to try and make a change in their life, that Allah will forgive it, because what they were doing was for them personally in the time of Jahiliyyah previously. Even though we normally think of the time of Jahiliyyah as being the time before Islam, in the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but it's a time of Jahiliyyah for that individual, because beforehand they were in a state of ignorance. They were not in a state of knowledge and understanding. So until the understanding settles upon a person's heart, you're not going to see it manifest in their actions. A lot of people also comment that you see many converts become better Muslims than people who are from traditionally Muslim backgrounds. As a convert myself, I don't really want to make any such claim, but it is something that's often commented upon. But it depends on the convert, just like it depends on the person from traditionally Muslim background. Some of the best Muslims I've met in my life from traditionally Muslim backgrounds were people who strayed from Islam, who maybe not left Islam, but they didn't practice Islam. And they went on a period when they led a kind of quite a haram lifestyle. And then they rediscovered Islam and what it really means. And the problem in their cases was the fact that what they were originally taught as being Islam was not really Islam. It was a kind of more of a culture and a way of approaching things. Yes, there's some Islam in that, but it wasn't really Islam in its most pristine and beautiful and inspiring form, which is why it never resounded with them. So that's why they strayed and they left it. But then later on, when they rediscovered it and came back, then of course it was like, wow, what was I missing? What have I been doing all of this time? The haqq, the guidance was here in the Quran. Why didn't I read it previously? If I didn't understand the Arabic, why didn't I pick up a translation in a language I could understand? And they'd never done that before. And so when they did do that and they met people who had a better understanding of Islam, of course, they become good Muslims. And this is my experience of people from traditional backgrounds, that some of the best ones are people who strayed and then they sort of came back into Islam as they understood it, because what they were taught originally just was, it was so mixed up with other things that it confused them. Basically, let's put it that way. So, I mean, this is a problem. We have all these kind of misunderstandings about what is a Muslim. What are the obligations upon a Muslim? Expectations upon the converts which are unrealistic. Someone is not going to embrace Islam and then suddenly become a saint. It's not going to happen. Even if that person does at some point go on to become a saint, it's not going to happen in 5 minutes. It's not going to happen that, a person says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, and suddenly they go from being a womanizing, misogynistic, criminal-minded, really nasty so-and-so to becoming, oh, mashallah, assalamu alaikum, how are you? Let's go and do prayers. Let's go and do zikr. Let's go. It's not going to happen. It's possible for such a person to get to that point, but it will take years. It's not going to take 5 minutes. Anybody who expects that within a matter of, now when I say 5 minutes, I mean weeks or months. Now, going back to the original thing I mentioned at the beginning, I'm no fan of Andrew Tate. The things that I've seen from the video clips so far have not endeared him to me. But at the same time, I'm not going to judge him from that, because that's all I've seen. And I don't know like a full picture. I don't know all about his life and what he was involved in or any of that. I don't even really want to know, to be quite honest, because it's it didn't interest me. Although due to the influence he's having on a lot of people, then I think maybe I will have to look into some of that a bit more when I get a chance. But I'm not really interested in judging him as such. But at the same time, what I can say is his conversion was only last year. Now, if someone has been leading quite a haram lifestyle as far as Islam is concerned, and has been involved in all sorts of unsavory activities, and Allah knows best, I'm not saying what, because like I says, I don't know him, so I don't know exactly what he's been involved in or what he hasn't been involved in. But if he has, it's unrealistic to think in a matter of 6 months or so that he's going to have completely turned his life around and been able to bring himself away from things that may be addictions, maybe bad habits, and all sorts. It's just unrealistic. A person has to be given time to be able to learn and to adjust, and encouragement to do so. And perhaps in a way, this legal trial, it might be a good encouragement for him to do so, because he will see that there really is consequences when you live your life in the wrong kind of way, and maybe it will be good for him in the long term, and Allah knows best. As far as the legal trial is concerned, I really don't want to comment, because I don't know what evidence they have, the authorities, and I don't know exactly what he may or may not have been involved in. I don't think any of us really do. We only know what the media has mentioned. Based upon that, if it's true, then I mean, there's nothing I can say to defend him. And those people who are defending him should keep that in mind. But if it's not, then I hope that that's also what comes out in the court case. As far as the court case is concerned, I hope justice is revealed. I hope that he gets justice, whatever that justice is. And if that justice is for him to be sent to prison, then yeah, I hope. And if it's not, if he's not guilty of those crimes, then I hope that's also comes out in the court case. I mean, it's hard to say. We don't know exactly what's been investigated, and we just have to hope that justice is done, whatever that may be. And before that, no one should really be commenting any more on it, because unless anybody knows. Because you have to let these things run their course. Islam itself is a religion that places great emphasis on justice. What is the Sharia itself? The Sharia, as far as the outward is concerned within society, is all about establishing justice. The Sharia is all about establishing justice. And so it's like, this might not be within a Sharia system, it's in another state, but the concept is there. And so as Muslims, we should support the concept, regardless whether the people who are actually performing those roles and those tasks are Muslims or whether they're not, because we should support the concept of justice. And I hope that that is done in a fair and just manner. And, regardless of whatever my personal views are in regards to Andrew Tate, or whether I like Andrew Tate or not, that in itself shouldn't get in the way of justice. There's a reason why the statues of Lady Justice, as she's depicted in the Western courts, have a blindfold upon them, because justice is supposed to be blind. What this means is blind to our prejudices, blind to our bias, blind to whether we like a person or we don't like a person. Otherwise, it's not justice. Within the Islamic tradition, there is an example where during a battle, a Jewish man had picked up a shield that belonged to Imam Ali alayhi salam. And later on, this was discovered. And the man was taken before a Qadi, a judge within the Islamic tradition. And he was questioned. And he claimed it was his shield. And Imam al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, says, it's my shield. Everybody knows it's my shield. The Qadi said, yes, but we only have your word against his word. Now, your word in that case was Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali. It was not just anybody. It's one of the authorities that we take Islam from. It was the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad and his cousin too. One of the people who became one of the righteous caliphs of Islam. He was not a nobody. But the judge threw the case out because it was based on what we now call, within our modern legal system, hearsay. It was just one word against another word. There was no other evidence. So the judge threw the case out. Afterwards, this Jewish man was completely astonished. After the ruling was done, he admitted, he said, Imam Ali, they spoke and he apologized and he said, I'm sorry, I know it was your shield. He says, but I could not believe that the judge ruled in my favor when I am a Jew. Because of this Jewish man actually embraced Islam because he was so astonished by the sense of justice that at that time the Muslims had. Today, there aren't many courts in the world where you'll get that kind of justice. But it shows how strong the sense of justice was within Islam, within Islamic tradition. That's the ideal that we're supposed to be after. And this is also the principle with why the statues of Lady Justice within the Western system are blindfolded. Because justice is supposed to be about the facts, about the evidence. It's not supposed to be about our prejudice or about our bias or whether we like someone or we don't like someone. And so that's why, I'll be honest, I don't particularly like Andrew Tate from what I've seen so far. And yet I wrote a headline which some people perceived as me defending Andrew Tate. It's not. But I don't like the headline because the headline is anti-Muslim. It shows bigotry towards Islam. That's unacceptable. But as far as Andrew Tate is concerned, I'm neither defending him nor am I incriminating him. I want to see justice done, whatever that is. And I just hope the Romanian authorities, they uphold justice and perform everything properly and by due process, and whatever the evidence suggests and indicates, and they go according to that. And as far as Andrew Tate is concerned, I hope his shahada is sincere. I hope it's genuine. And if it is, then, may Allah guide him. And again, irrespective whether I like the guy or not, it's not the point. Today, we have too many Muslims that they run after people because they like them. And then that person spouts rubbish. But they follow them and they hang off every word they say, even if it is hateful, just because they like that person. This is not how Islam works. It should be about what is true, what is right, what is fair, what is just. For those of you who doubt what I'm saying here, please study the Quran more closely. The Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even tells us in the Quran, we should speak the truth even if it be against ourselves. How many people follow that? How many people even realize that is written in the Quran? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran to establish justice. It doesn't even say in the Quran itself establish a particular kind of justice, but just establish justice. Justice itself is a concept that goes beyond any particular implementation of it in any particular system. It is a concept that transcends that. It is about doing what is right, ensuring that the innocent are protected, that the innocent are not incriminated, and that they are protected from people who are dangerous within the society, that they are protected from people who are criminals within society, people who are doing harm to others. This is the point behind it. If it wasn't for law, we would have anarchy. We would not be able to walk outside in the streets and feel safe. That's the point of it. Before law was established, even if we look within the Muslim tradition, why was the Prophet Muhammad SAW invited to, as it was known then, Yathrib? Because the tribes of Yathrib were fighting each other all the time. Somebody from this tribe would do something bad to someone from this tribe. So then, because of that, a group of people from this tribe would go and do something bad to someone from that tribe. Maybe someone here got killed, so they're going to kill 3 of those people. Then they'd come back and kill 10 of those people. Or, their sheep were stolen, so then the other lot got their sheep stolen, or their horses, or something like this. When the Prophet Muhammad SAW went there, he established justice. And this stopped. If people had a grievance, if someone did something wrong, they would take it before a Qadi. A Qadi would assess the evidence. Just like a modern judge in any court, in any country. If the evidence proves that the person is guilty, then he will give a verdict to establish justice, whether that is that a fine needs to be paid, whether that is somebody in those days had to be executed, or something else, whatever the judge decided. But it stopped this warfare. I mean, this wasn't warfare between countries, this was literally warfare between neighbors. And that happened everywhere in the world before justice systems were established. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran to establish justice. It's very important. And this is also why it's very important that when there is a legal process, that we allow that legal process to proceed and we wait and see what the judgment is. And if there is a mistake in that judgment, which sometimes there can be, that's why there's an appeals process. But first we have to wait and see what the judgment is. And this is what keeps us as civilized human beings. Because below that, if we don't establish that and keep to that, we revert back to being worse than animals. Unless anybody's got any questions, then I think I will leave it there for today. I hope you found that interesting and beneficial, and I hope it clarifies where I stand on some of these things. Anti-Muslim prejudice is itself concerning, just like anti-Semitism is concerning, or any other form of hatred. And we really do need to call out all forms of hatred, because anybody who knows their history, knows what happens when we allow that to fester, when we allow hatred to manifest in public openly, and for that to be okay. And as Muslims, we shouldn't just be looking out when it is anti-Muslim prejudice, or Islamophobia, as some people like to call it. I prefer anti-Muslim prejudice, as I feel is a more accurate term. And Islamophobia is sometimes used to shut down debate. No, Islam can be criticized. That's fine, intellectual criticism, just like any religion can be. But hatred is not fine. To imply that because somebody embraces a religion, that just their embracing of that religion is a bad thing, or that is wrong, or that religion itself is evil and is by itself going to have a negative influence upon them, when it is a mainstream peaceful religion, that's wrong. That's unacceptable. And we have to be very careful of that. I mean, recently, today actually, I didn't receive this today in the post, but it was sitting in my office because it arrived last week. A brief history of anti-Semitism. This is a brief history of anti-Semitism. I said to my colleague who does the admin of the chaplaincy, I says, my goodness, if this is a brief history of anti-Semitism, what would be a comprehensive history of anti-Semitism? This is a 600-page book. And where Muslims are a minority, we suffer anti-Muslim prejudice that is very, very similar, not nearly the same as anti-Semitism. Where Christians are in a minority in other countries, in some cases they suffer very similar. We need to be alert to this. Whether someone is a Jew, a Christian, a Sikh, Hindu, even atheist, they are not less of a human being. They don't have less human rights than you or I. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us as the children of Adam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored all of the children of Adam. And the other point about this is, if we want to defend our rights as Muslims, we also have to defend the rights of Jews. We have to defend the rights of Christians. We have to defend the rights of Hindus, Buddhists, atheists. Otherwise, we lose the credibility to defend our rights as Muslims, where we are a minority. We have no credibility if we only speak up when Muslims' rights are being abused and when other people's rights are not. Or when other people's rights are being abused, and we don't speak up. If we only speak up about the Rohingya and the Uyghurs and the Palestinians, but don't mention where Jews in some Western countries are facing increasing anti-Semitism, or in some Muslim countries, or where Christians have been persecuted, and we don't mention that and highlight that and support their rights, how can we defend the rights of the Uyghurs or the Palestinians? We can't. We have no credibility, because then people say, you're not about human rights, you're just about Muslims' rights. You look at organizations that are established already. I mean, big international human rights organizations. I mean, is Amnesty International a Christian rights organization? Is Human Appeal, well, not Human Appeal, Human Rights Watch? Is Human Rights Watch a Christian human rights organization? And yet we actually have some Islamic human rights organizations that only speak and only highlight the rights of Muslims. We have to get out of this mindset. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored all of the children of Adam. If someone comes to me who is a Jew or a Christian or a Hindu or white, black, or Asian, I do not treat them any different because of their religious beliefs or because of the color of their skin. That's prejudice and racism. And it's never right. We're not taught to be like that as Muslims. Even if it exists in some of our cultures, we have to stand up against it. It's also tremendously hypocritical when Muslims come here, where even if we have some anti-Muslim prejudice, at this present time, Muslims in this society have rights as citizens and can live their lives freely. And it's hypocritical when people come here to a traditionally Christian country, claim their human rights, but then don't want those same human rights applied to minorities within the countries of which they come from, or other countries where Muslims are in a majority. Prophet Muhammad said, a person is not a Muslim if they do not want for their brother what they want for themselves. If you want Muslim, if you want your human rights, if you want to be treated fairly, if you want to be given your freedom and your opportunity and your ability to pray in your mosques and do your thing, you have to want the same thing for everybody else. You have to want for them to have the freedom to go to their churches or to their synagogues or to their temples, and for them to be able to live their lives without harassment. I mean, how is harassment and persecuting people bringing anybody closer to God or raising anybody's makan? It's not. Anyway, I'll leave it there. If anything I've said has been beneficial for you, then I give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, my sheikhs and my parents. The thanks and the blessing is all due to them. And if I've made any mistakes, then please forgive me. The mistakes are all my own. I'll read the zikr now, inshallah. Bismillah. نويت العبين، نويت الأسرة، نويت كوا، نويت الاعتكاف، نويت السلوك، نويت رياض الله تعالى في هذا جميع. Worship your Lord until He grants you certainty. We begin with the recitation of the Kalima Shahada. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We seek Allah's forgiveness with the recitation of the Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. أستغفر العظيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب عليه إنه هو التواب الرحيم يا وهاب يا وهاب يا وهاب يا مسبب الأسباب يا مفاتيح الأبواب يا مقلب القلوب والأبصار يا دليل المتخيرين يا غاية المستحيثين يا حي يا قيوم يا ذو الجلال والإكرام وفريد أمري الله Inna Allah basiran bil ibad. Rabbik Sharif, direct your heart to the heart of your Shaykh. Al-Fatiha Sharifa. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. صلوات الشريفة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. 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 ألم نشر الشريف. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. إقرأ الشريفة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الفاتحة الشريفة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. صلوات الشريفة. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم 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 اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب خادتتاني من الملك ورمتاني من طويل خادت فطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة توفاني مسلمان والكريم بالصالحين أمان بالله صدق الله العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة ما يصفون والسلام المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إلا الشرف النبي وآله وصحبه كرام وإلى باقي أنبياء والمرسلين وكل ما يشبههم وإلى ماتي أبوا وإلى مشايخين في طريقة نقشبندية عالية قصة إلى آلك وجغان الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Falamanuhu. Know that there is no God but God. La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah, 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 Muhammadur Rasulullah, alayhi salatu la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الحبيب الله عليه صلاة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الحبيب الله عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الحبيب الله عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشفيع الله عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشفيع الله عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد الشفيع الله عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم لا إله إلا الله محمد المصطفى عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد المصطفى عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد المصطفى عليه صلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد المصطفى عليه صلاة لا لا إله إلا الله 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 محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إلا شرف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله وصحبه كرام وإلى واقي سوي صدتنا وصدقيون الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين ذكر جلال الله 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 Allah, 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 Allah. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Qul huwallahu la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. who, 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 who. Hawk, 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 hawk. Hey, 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 hey. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Qul la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Allahu Allah Hak. 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 Allahu Allah hey, 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 Allah hey ya Qayyum. Allah hey ya Qayyum, 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 Allah hey ya Qayyum. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Qul la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Yahu, Yahu, Ya Daim. Yahu, Yahu, Ya Daim. Yahu, Yahu, Ya Daim. Allah, Yahu, Ya Daim. Ya Daim, Ya Daim, Ya Daim, Ya Allah. Ya Daim, Ya Daim, Ya Daim, Ya Allah. Ya Halim, Ya Halim, Ya Halim, Ya Allah. Ya Halim, Ya Halim, Ya Halim, Ya Allah. Ya Hafiz, Ya Hafiz, Ya Hafiz, Ya Allah. Ya Hafiz, Ya Hafiz, Ya Hafiz, Ya Allah. Ya Latif, Ya Latif, Ya Latif, Ya Allah. Ya Latif, Ya Latif, Ya Latif, Ya Allah. Ya Grafa, Ya Grafu, Ya Grafa, Ya Grafu, Ya Grafa, Ya Grafu, Ya Grafa, Ya Grafu, Ya Sata, Ya Fata, Ya Sata, Ya Fata, Ya Sata, Ya Fata, Ya Sata, Ya Fata, Ya Mujib, Ya Mujib, Ya Mujib, Ya Allah. Ya Mujib, Ya Mujib, Ya Mujib, Ya Allah. Ya Muin, Ya Muin, Ya Muin, Ya Allah. Ya Muin, Ya Muin, Ya Muin, Ya Allah. Ya Mughith, Ya Mughith, Ya Mughith, Ya Allah. Ya Mughith, Ya Mughith, Ya Mughith, Ya Allah. Ya Wadud, Ya Wadud, Ya Wadud, Ya Allah. Ya Wadud, Ya Wadud, Ya Wadud, Ya Allah. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Rahim, Ya Karim, Ya Rahim, Ya Karim, Ya Rahim, Ya Karim, Ya Rahim, Ya Karim, Ya Hanan, Ya Manan, Ya Hanan, Ya Manan, Ya Hanan, Ya Manan, Ya Hanan, Ya Manan, Ya Dayyan, Ya Subhan, Ya Dayyan, Ya Subhan, Ya Dayyan, Ya Subhan, Ya Dayyan, Ya Subhan, Ya Subhan, Ya Sultan, Ya Subhan, Ya Sultan, Ya Subhan, Ya Sultan, Ya Subhan, Ya Sultan, Ya Sultan, Ya Sultan, Ya Sultan, Ya Allah. Ya Sultan, Ya Sultan, Ya Sultan, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Aman, Ya Aman, Ya Aman, Ya Allah. Ya Aman, Ya Aman, Ya Aman, Ya Allah. Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Allah. Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Qul la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Salawatu sharifa. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. 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 اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم 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 اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. صل يا ربي وسلم على جميع أنبياء ومرسلين وعلى كل أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. على أشرف الأمين سيدنا محمد صلوات على أفضل الأمين سيدنا محمد صلوات على أكمل الأمين سيدنا محمد صلوات صلوات الله وملائكته وأنبيائه ورسوله وجميع كوكه على محمد وعلى آل محمد عليه وعليهم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. ورضي الله تبارك وتعالى عن سادتنا شعب رسول الله أجمعين ونتبعنا بهم بإحسان ونعمة مجتدين أمدين ولعلماء متقين ولأولياء الصالحين أما الشيخين في طريقة نقشبندية آلية قد أصلوا تلاهم زكية ونولوا تلاجة مباركة الله تعالى علينا من بركاتهم وفيضاتهم دائما والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إلى خضرات نبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله وصحبه الكرام وإلى واقي سوي أنبياء ومرسلين وقدماء شرعين وإلى واقي مشايخين في طريقة نقشبندية آلية خاصة روحي إمام طريقة وقوتي كذلك شعبودي نقشبند مريد الويسي وبكاري وإلا الشيخ شريف هداية الله وإلا أول بولي سونغو وإلا شيخ يوسف مقاصري وإلا شيخ عبد الله فايز داغستاني وإلا زند بير وإلا صوفي عبد الله وإلا مولانا الشيخ نازم الدلقاني وإلا شيخ داود رص أوين وإلا غوستو وإلا شيخ أدانغ بدرودين وإلا مولانا الشيخ هشام كباني وإلا شيخ دكتور تاري القادري وإلا شيخ بادشاه وإلا شيخ محمد ديل وإلا شيخ نور كباني وأستاذنا عبد الخالق الجواني وإلى أستاذنا وأستاذنا وصديقيون الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Ya Allah, we pray for the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his noble family, his noble ancestors, his noble descendants. We pray for the previous prophets and their noble ancestors and their noble descendants. And we pray for the Sahabi Akham. We pray for the righteous caliphs. the scholars, the saints, and especially my Sheikh, Sufi Abdullah, Maulana Sheikh Nazim, and Sheikh Dawood Ras Owen. Ya Allah, bless their souls and raise their stations in your divine presence. Ya Allah, bless the soul of my dear father, Richard Kevin Armstrong, and raise his station in your divine presence. Ya Allah, bless the souls of Sheikh Sharif Hidayatullah, of all the Wali Songo, of Sheikh Yusuf Makassar, of Sheikh Kustur, of Sheikh Atang Badruddin, Sheikh Abdul Qadir As-Sufi. Ya Allah, bless their souls and raise their stations in your divine presence, and all of the souls of all of the awliya Allah, and all of the scholars. Ya Allah, bless all of their souls, and bless the souls of our parents, and bless our parents. Bless our parents. Bless our grandparents. Bless our ancestors. If there is anything we do which is pleasing to you, Ya Allah, we pray you grant the blessing of this upon our ancestors, that maybe they will be forgiven for some mistake that they have made, or that they, with their station, will be raised in your divine presence. Ya Allah, bless our brothers and our sisters, bless our aunties and our uncles, and bless especially our dear wives or husbands and children, and grandchildren, or future grandchildren. Ya Allah, bless our entire families. Bless our families and grant them to always be under your divine protection and blessings, always connected to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu and the awliya Allah, and that they don't stray too far, like our children and grandchildren and future generations don't stray too far from the path. And if they do, they swiftly return to it with greater understanding and more blessing. Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we pray for our communities. I pray for my fellow chaplains here at the Multi-Faith Chaplaincy. Ya Allah, bless all of their souls and grant them all good health and well-being, both my current colleagues and my former colleagues. Ya Allah, bless my former colleagues in what they are doing now. Grant them also always to be in good health and well-being, and to always be successful, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, I pray for this multi-faith chaplaincy, that it may always be a place of blessing, where people can feel comfortable to come and to spend time with their communities in the presence of Allah, with beautiful events, or to come to pray, or to spend time here with their friends in a nice halal spiritual environment. Whatever their faiths, whatever their backgrounds, may this always be a place that's open for all and blessed. Ya Allah, I pray for all of our communities. Ya Allah, grant us the wisdom to build harmonious communities, communities which are a blessing and not a curse upon other communities or upon the earth. Ya Allah, grant us as human beings to be a blessing and not a curse. Grant us the wisdom to do this, so that we do things in the right and the best way. Ya Allah, forgive us our mistakes and our weaknesses, and grant us always to be inspired by you and under your divine direction, blessing, and support. Ya Allah, bless our sheikhs. Ya Allah, bless our sheikhs, and bless the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد بن علي سيدنا محمد بن القاسم صلي الربي والسلام على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى كل أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Thank you for joining us for this Sohbet and Sufi meditation session here in my office at the University of Birmingham's Multi-Faith Chaplaincy in Edgbaston, Birmingham. If you are in the Birmingham area, you're most welcome to join me in person on a Monday evening at St. Francis Hall, where the Multi-Faith Chaplaincy is located, where you join me in person. You will not be on camera if you ever do that, because the camera, as you probably noticed, is only pointing at me. This is deliberately, and I wouldn't put it on anybody else who was here, just to give them their space and their privacy. And if I was going to do that, I'd do it in another way, in a different kind of thing, not with these Sohbets. But you are most welcome if you want to join me in person. It also, the more people who come or the more people who join me, it makes the whole thing a bit more interactive, especially the Sohbet at the beginning. And that's a lot better when it's more interactive. Also, Allah sends more tajallis and more blessings when people come together. But if you can't, you're still most welcome to join me online. However you join me or take part, and I still, regardless, I wish you my blessings. May Allah make things easier for all of you. For the sake of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. I don't know why I just read that Fatiha, but there must be some good reason for it. So bless it unto the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu and their sheikhs. If you're in the UK, have a very good evening. And wherever you are in the world, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of God be with all of you and your families and your communities. Bye.